There's a type of person who makes everyone uncomfortable. Not because they're mean or broken, but because they're too calm when things fall apart, too quiet about pain, too good at surviving alone. That parent who never asks for help, that coworker who handles crisis effortlessly, the friend who shows up for everyone but won't let anyone show up for them. Here's what nobody tells you. They weren't born this way. Something happened that rewired how they see the world. Generation X, born between 1965 and 1980, the generation everyone forgot. And what happened to them is heartbreaking. Picture this. It's 1978. You're 8 years old. School bell rings. You walk home alone. You reach your door. Nobody's there. No adults. No phone. Just you and that house key on a string. You unlock the door. Silence. Empty. You make something to eat, do homework alone, then wait in that quiet house. This wasn't a bad day. This was every day. By 1984, 7 million children between 5 and 13 came home to empty houses daily. 7 million kids learning the most brutal lesson. Nobody's coming to save you. That empty house carved something deep. Psychologists call it a high contingency environment. Every action has consequences, real ones, immediate ones, faced alone. Forget homework? You fail. Burn something cooking? Handle it. Lock yourself out? Figure it out. These were 8-year-olds learning the world doesn't pause. Help isn't guaranteed. Survival means figuring things out yourself. Once that embeds, it never leaves. When parents came home, there were no discussions. Rules clear, consequences instant. Step out of line, you knew immediately. No family meetings, no processing feelings, direct cause and effect. This trained their brains to predict outcomes 3 steps ahead. They're running survival calculations based on decades watching actions lead to consequences with no safety net. Here's where it gets painful. They watched parents promise stability and loyalty. Work hard, stay faithful to your company, follow the rules. Then they watched divorce rates explode through the 70s and 80s, right in front of them. Marriages falling apart. Parents who gave everything to companies getting laid off without warning. The social contract got shredded while they watched. When people call them cynical, Gen X calls it pattern recognition. They learn to hope while expecting disappointment. And privacy. They treat privacy like oxygen because they grew up in the last era where mistakes disappeared. Did something stupid? 10 people knew, then gone. No screenshots, no viral videos haunting you forever. When social media arrived asking them to broadcast their lives to strangers, that didn't feel liberating, that felt dangerous. They built the technology, but remember you could exist without performing. Gen X turned irony into survival armor. Everything's a joke. Keep things distant. Laugh before it hurts. This traces to Cold War childhoods. Adults discussed nuclear annihilation while telling kids not to worry. They had duck and cover drills, like desks would save you from nuclear weapons. Even as children, they sensed the absurdity. When you grow up holding contradictory realities, you learn emotional distance. Despite all this trauma, Gen X developed brutal work ethic. They don't talk about it, just work. Forged through prehistoric jobs. Paper routes at 5 in the morning, freezing cold. Bagging groceries. Fast food calculating change when registers broke. Real jobs with real consequences at 12 years old. They learned accountability through experience, not lectures. They watched company loyalty mean nothing during layoffs. So Gen X made a calculation. Never be loyal to companies, but be loyal to your own competence. They can't control getting laid off, but they control being valuable enough to survive cuts. Here's the paradox that breaks hearts. Gen X is fiercely independent and quietly collaborative. They'll never ask for help themselves. Been handling everything alone since 8. Asking feels like admitting defeat. But if you need help, they appear. No announcement, no social media performance. Just there because that's what you do when someone's drowning. Their relationship to authority is simple. They respect competence, not titles. Earned your position through skill, they'll follow anywhere. Just someone with fancy titles who doesn't know anything? zero patience. This comes from watching incompetent authority make catastrophic decisions. Watergate, Iran-Contra, AIDS crisis mishandled. They learned authority doesn't automatically deserve respect. Proving competence does. Gen X got economically destroyed repeatedly. Youngest graduated into dot-com crash. Oldest hit stride right before 2008 demolished everything. This created survival strategy, multiple income streams, not from entrepreneurial dreams, but from learning viscerally nothing lasts. That stable job vanishes tomorrow, so diversify everything. Here's what destroys me. Gen X struggles asking for support even when desperately needing it. Research shows they seek significantly less social support during stress, not because they lack people, because asking feels like failing. That 8-year-old coming home to empty houses learned being okay alone. Decades later, with support available, their first instinct remains handling everything themselves, alone. They're probably last generation understanding being genuinely alone with thoughts, being bored, fixing things with hands, solving problems without immediately Googling. They're not better, just different, forged when old worlds died but new ones hadn't been born. They're the bridge generation. Bridges don't get attention. They're not destinations. They connect things, hold weight, do work without fanfare. That's peak Gen X. Not needing anyone noticing, not seeking validation, just handling what needs handling. While everyone fights for attention, Gen X keeps building, fixing, maintaining, surviving, not posting about resilience, just doing what they've always done. Handle it, figure it out, survive. Never expect credit. That makes them remarkably resilient, not because they don't feel pain, because they learned pain is something you carry while moving forward. They grew up alone and learned being okay with it, expected nothing and built everything. Nobody talks about them. Exactly their preference. If this helped Gen X make sense, these invisible stories deserve telling, even if Gen X would never ask.